this incident, it could have been contained easily had the police been competent or not willfully incompetent in holding those protesters.
Hmm.
But what's scary is that this is an escalation now of the norms for America. So whereas 20 years ago a Trump wouldn't have been able to become president, now he can.
Hmm.
And that was all the fault of the failed policies of the Republicans and the Democrats. And now that gives rise to someone like Trump. Well, all that Trump did is he picked up the baton and he carried it a little bit further. Well, what's gonna happen now? Things are worse. We have a tinderbox. What happens when the next Trump that's more competent comes along and he picks up that baton and he takes us into
Hmm.
a worse situation? You're listening to the Brown Perspective. This is RO, and I'm here with my good friend Eduardo.
Se vive, se siente, Eduardo está presente.
All right. In the previous discussion, we were talking about the specific language to use to describe this. Again, insurrection, sedition, or coup. But for this discussion, I want to talk a little bit more about the implications of this now that it's over, and now that people are looking for answers, and they're trying to understand what happened and how to prevent it in the future or potentially prevent it. One of the things that has gotten some attention is the potential to impeach Trump. And this article that I have here is Democrats ready impeachment charge against Trump for inciting Capitol mob.
I think it's understandable. And I think let's not forget that before everybody was talking about what happened on the Capitol on Wednesday, everybody was talking about the recorded conversation of Donald Trump with the state Secretary of State of Georgia. And he was
Hmm.
asking
To find the votes.
to find the votes, man. Come on, man. I just need 11,000 votes. Just give me some votes. I
Find them
believe in,
anywhere.
in
Yeah.
law and law and order.
Yeah, I had forgotten about that call. Yeah, you're right. The,
Yes, that did happen. And obviously, in some ways, I think to your point, I think given what happened, what transpired this weekend, they're absolutely not this weekend, this week, they're absolutely entitled to to do this. And I feel that in some ways, I feel like a progressive asking them to do it because, and actually, I believe it was AOC, one of the first ones to call for his impeachment. So actually, this did start with the most progressive wing of the party, and I think the reason to do it is because what he did was wrong, because what he did has consequences. What the supporters that he instigated, they desecrated our civic temple, for one, but also because they realize that this can get out of hand and it could get a lot worse. And also as a way to punish him by making sure that he doesn't run again in 4 years, and also to maybe curtail and also not give him the same type of presidential um, respects that former presidents get because of what he did and what he incited this week.
and you send me this tweet right here that says some of the consequences that he would face if he were impeached. And one is he loses his $200,000 plus pension for the rest of his life,
Mhm.
loses $1 million a year travel allowance. I didn't even know about that one.
Mhm.
Loses lifetime full Secret Service detail, and also loses his ability to run in 2024. And I think for me that the fourth one was really the one that I was thinking about as soon as this happened, and I heard that they could potentially be they're thinking about impeaching him. Well, initially, I thought, really, there's only a few days left. Why? And then I thought, oh, okay, that's probably going to prevent him from running in 2024, so that's why they would do it. But
Mhm.
look, just to play the devil's advocate here, let's talk about Trump inciting violence. This guy has been inciting violence against. You could claim that he's been doing no different the whole time, calling Mexicans rapists, and also remember when he when there were protests and he said, if that were me, I would punch the son of a bitch. He was referring to a black protester, someone that was, I believe, protesting against, I don't know, I don't recall if it was police brutality or not, but it was
Yeah, it
definitely an
was
African,
Colin
yeah.
Kaepernick. But he was just kidding, Reo. He was just playing. He was
and
making a joke.
and let's
He
not
didn't hurt
also,
anybody.
yeah, I was thinking about the guy that was elbowed in one of his speeches. and he didn't
Oh
really
yeah,
like come
him
out and
too.
condemn that. Remember that?
Yes,
But yeah,
I
so
remember he
for
was going up the
for
stairs.
Kaepernick, that's where he says that no, for Kaepernick, he said he would fire or punch the SOB. And then let's not forget all his tweets about foreign aggression,
Hmm.
right? So you're telling me that the media was okay with all of that before, and now they're shocked at the consequences of him doing this. And so I'm not saying that they shouldn't go through with this. Especially, I like the idea of just him losing all of these privileges, but also I want to make sure that we don't get caught up in thinking that this is all Trump's fault. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
the guy has no ideology. He's an idiot, but think about it this way: do you think Trump would have been able to rise to power 20 years ago, even 20 years ago,
No,
when
absolutely not.
Gore and Bush were running for the presidency?
No, those were different
He
times,
would have been laughed
different
out
media.
of. Yeah, he would have been laughed out of the debates. So there's a reason why a Trump can come along and be successful, and because he
Hmm.
capitalizes on all of the anger and frustration and resentment and fear and whatever else emanates from the policies that have given us poverty and inequality and shipped all the jobs overseas and endless wars. So you have this situation that allows a Trump to rise to power, and then when he launched his bid for the presidency, and he was given airtime left and right because it sold, because
For
it got
free, yeah.
ratings. So the entire media establishment was allowing this guy to say whatever he wanted because it was good for their ratings. And now all of a sudden they see the consequences, and now they want to say, okay, we're going to impeach the guy. Yeah, sure, go ahead and impeach him. But they need to do some deep introspection and ask themselves some tough questions as to how they could have let this get so out of hand.
Great points. And I think we need to take it either a step up or a step back in terms of, when you talk about the media, when you talk about politics, you talk about industries, you're really talking about the political class, the ruling class, the wealthy, and those who, were okay with Trump because A, he was entertainment, B, he got him into power, C, he was helping them. Yes, he was saying some crazy things, but he was helping them enact their agenda, whether it's judiciary, regulation, their businesses. So life was good with the Trump presidency, even if he um, said things that shouldn't have been said or broke a lot of norms that were usually adhered to.
Mm-hmm.
And and then a pandemic hit, and then he lost the election, and then everything that he said after the election and how he incited people on Wednesday. So this was in some ways the again the ruling class getting a warning shot, and this is the monster you created because of supporting of and because of benefiting, profiting for what he was doing. Now you have to live with the consequences, and now what are you going to do, and how are you going to put the pieces together after what happened on Wednesday?
Yeah, now that he's lost, they're going to discard him, or they're going to try to discard him. And right, so we shouldn't give him a pass if they're going to pretend like he's just a problem to, especially like the media and those interests that were behind him. Yeah, they were okay with him coming into power and making excuses for him. Ted Cruz and Mitch McConnell and the other Republican establishment, as long as he was in there and helping their cause. But they, in a way, made a deal with the devil.
Hmm.
And and what you see, what's actually scary about this is, like I mentioned in the previous session that we had, is that this incident, it could have been contained easily had the police been competent, or not willfully incompetent in holding those protesters.
Hmm.
But what's scary is that this is an escalation now of the norms for America. So whereas 20 years ago a Trump wouldn't have been able to become president, now he can.
Hmm.
And that was all the fault of the failed policies of the Republicans and the Democrats. And now that gives rise to someone like Trump. Well, all that Trump did is he picked up the baton and he carried it a little bit further. Well, what's gonna happen now? Things are worse. We have a tinderbox. what happens when the next Trump that's more competent comes along and he picks up that baton and he takes us into a
Hmm.
worse situation. I mean, the trajectory, if you just want to look at it from the 70s till now, things seem to be getting progressively worse. The population is more and more divided. I mentioned this earlier as well, that the Republicans, those that follow Trump, even Fox News is not conservative enough for them anymore. So you have
Hmm.
all these other networks like OAN. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
Well, I
One,
heard about it. I haven't listened to it, and
and
I don't intend to.
you could potentially have Trump television. I mean, look, I think it's you should every now and then listen to these networks because it's important to see what's going on there.
No, it's gonna corrupt my mind, Reo. I can't listen and believe, start weighing those type of opinions. It's not good for my physical and mental well-being.
From a legal perspective, are they going to be able to successfully defend the claim that he willfully incited this type of violence? Trump wasn't telling his supporters to storm the
Yes, he
Capitol
was.
and hurt police officers. He was telling them to
No, but I
protest and go
mean,
to the Capitol.
if you play the video, he was pretty aggressive, and I think there was this quote that I just had to write down when I heard it, when he said, "You'll never take our country back with weakness. You have to show strength. You have to be strong."
Right, but that's not telling them to go into the Capitol and attack police officers, right?
No, but I mean, well, that's the thing. Even if that wasn't his
Well,
intention, that was the it was actually it was his intention. He just didn't say those words because I think if
right,
he
right,
would have said those words, obviously that would have been a different story. But he's not stupid either. He's just like
right.
so
So
that way he has a way to say
exactly,
um oh no, that wasn't it. What I meant was just to stay outside and obviously be vocal, but be
exactly.
peaceful.
That's what I'm saying. That
So
from a, so I'm talking about this from like the point of view of lawyers arguing this in court. And
oh
when you try to parse that language apart, so you said we're never going to take back our country through weakness,
yeah.
right? Well, dude, there's like a million ways that somebody can get out of that by saying that we were referring to being strong and being brave. It's a gray area there that the prosecution would try to make the case that that equals inciting violence, but the defense is just going to try to say that no, that's not the case. That's not what he meant. So you don't have the statements from Trump that clearly said we need to go out there and we need to murder police officers. We need to go and vandalize the Capitol. We need to occupy the Capitol.
Yeah,
He's
but
not
you
doing.
enable that type of action.
He's using his rhetoric as a weapon, but can they pin it on him? Can they pin this on him? Can he be impeached? Right, because they're saying that he played a role in this insurrection. You know what Trump is going to say, or his defense is going to say, is like, look, ours were peaceful, and it was your police officers that opened the barricades and let them
Well,
in. And then once they were in, they instigated. They'll try to blame the police officers. They were blaming Antifa. Remember, they're saying that it was
yeah.
Antifa that the radical elements of Antifa got in there, and that they were the ones that were instigating. So he'll try to defend this.
Certainly, but I think what we're yes, it probably won't win in a court, or it could be fought in a court, but in the court of public opinion, I think this has already been deliberated. And the sad fact that 8 senators and 139 members of Congress is still voted to uphold the objections to the Electoral College is scary, and also an indication that, to your earlier point, Trumpism is not dead, and there's still people who may lay in the low for the next few months, years, until people forget about what happened and try to resurrect their political campaign and aspirations for higher office.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the Democrats are going to come in and for they have control now of the Senate, the House, they have the presidency. So this is they're not going to really be able to do significant change to change the trajectory of people. I mean, do you see them bringing back jobs? Do you see them? Do you see
Yes, because I
them?
think there is going to be more appetite to do a what's going on with the distribution of vaccines has to be augmented significantly.
But manufacturing
Um,
jobs? Do you think that they're going to stop? Look, so because there's powerful interest that would prevent them from doing that. Like, which corporation is going to say, yeah, we're not going to ship the jobs overseas to save money for our stockholders,
Well,
just
the
because
same
it's the right
corporations
thing to
that
do.
called for Trump's removal.
What about those?
So there was, I think it's the Association of U.S. Manufacturers
Right.
who called for the president to be removed from office.
Right, but okay, so right, so they say they don't like Trump, but does that mean that they're gonna bring jobs locally and not export them? I guess what I'm saying is that the forces of capitalism are too strong for companies not to push jobs away from the U.S., especially when you have free trade deals like the ones with NAFTA, where you can get stuff manufactured cheaply in Mexico, then bring it across the border into the U.S. There's just the way that the American system is set up to essentially impoverish the nation because the corporations are always looking for ways to save money. And as long as they can ship those jobs somewhere else where there's less regulation, where there's less like labor laws, where there's oh, and then also locally they'll just there's no support. They'll try to defund unions also, or keep defunding them and effectively render them ineffective. So how you think Democrats will be able to stand up against that? And that's what
Yes,
I say. That
sir.
you think they'll be able to reverse that?
That's where Uncle Joe comes in, and I think some of the unions and other labor leaders and political leaders come together and say, and to your point, yes, we're not going to stop capitalism, but how can we make that capitalism more responsible both domestically and abroad? How do we provide healthcare? How do
Mm-hmm.
we provide jobs? How do we increase pay and make sure that some of the causes of what happened on Wednesday, but the underlining anger and despair that leads people to believe somebody like Trump, or who led people in Germany to believe in someone like Adolf Hitler, you remove those things and you realize, hey, yes, you guys can make all this money both here and away, but look what is resulting. So if we don't address these issues, then you're going to have to face uncertainty, lawlessness, and a number of other things that those corporations rather not see. And also the fact that I'm sure that through more international collaboration, hopefully the standards, labor laws, and other things will continue to be improved. So that way, regardless of where these companies go, at least there's some little more safeguards for workers and families and the environment,
Mm-hmm.
climate, and everything else that needs to be protected.
And by the way, when I talk about capitalism, I'm talking about predatory profit at any cost capitalism, not other forms of capitalism that could arrive at more of a balance between the people and the corporations. And so
Socio-democratic capitalism is
yeah,
what you
but
mean.
unfortunately the US has the type that is like the hyper predatory capitalism. And I think you're putting too much faith again in Joe Biden and the Democrats. I think they're compromised. I think that they receive too much support from powerful interest. So it's hard to see how they make significant changes to the trajectory in which we are, unless you have a sustained pressure campaign from the people. But I don't see that really coming from the people that vote Democrat. I would see that coming from the progressives, but they're just not a sizable group yet to be able to put on that type of pressure. So I don't know if Joe Biden and the Democrats will be able to do anything to stop this type of anger that's simmering in the country. And we're already polarized, Democrats and Republicans, and they don't talk to each other. Trump just escalated. Let's hope that this dies down and they find a way to reincorporate people into their communities, to get people to stop joining extremist groups, right? Because those guys at that point, they're just looking for solutions mainly through violence. But anyway, I think I don't want to keep getting off topic here. I think we were talking about whether or not about impeaching Trump. And
Yeah, but
so
can I just make a point
yeah,
though?
yeah, go
I
ahead.
think that you have a 70-year-old man in Biden who has been in Washington D.C. almost all his life,
Yeah.
who's experienced, who is confident enough to have been vice president to the first African American president of the United States, who's confident enough to select um, a black woman, a black Asian woman to be vice president of the United States, who understands that he's only going to be on this earth for a few more years and he has the opportunity to leave a
Mhm.
lasting legacy and particularly to restore the faith in the democratic process in our country after what what transpired this week and everything that's going on with the pandemic. So in some ways, he could be the FDR of the next 4 years or so. He could have that type of of presidency, both because of all these factors that I just mentioned, but also because of the goodwill that should still be here, for, hopefully for the next few weeks, while his administration comes into power and they try to implement their agenda.
All right. We'll talk in 4 years. You're talking about significant changes that need to happen, like
Immigration reform is going to get
immigration
done.
reform,
I called it.
medical reform, foreign policy reform, bringing back jobs, trying to the things that make an actual difference in people's lives and that would de-radicalize them. Because right now there's too many people that are being radicalized right wing because of all the things like anger, fear, frustration, a sense that they're being overtaken by minorities, that their jobs are going overseas for whatever reason, and then someone like Trump comes along and directs all of that anger and frustration towards scapegoats. A lot of those
Mhm.
things are happening as a result of the failed policy. So yeah, I hope that you're right. I think that the Democrats are too compromised. I don't know how much they'll be able to do, and I don't. It's not like you have a group of corporations that have annual meetings that come together and like figure out how to screw people over. It's just we
Oh, it's not. That's not Davos. My bad.
no, these things happen as a result. Like sometimes it's the policies that you put in place. For example, removing Glass-Steagall in the 90s that removed the separation between normal banking and investment banking. So once you do something like that, everything that comes after, yeah, it benefits a whole bunch of people and it creates profit for the banks. But look, it crashed the housing market within a decade.
Yeah, and the
And
fairness doctrine and
yeah,
telecommunications that
exactly.
led us to Fox News.
And also, well, the crime bill, the omnibus crime bill,
Yep.
and again, Biden was the architect of that. So it's all we have all these policies that have led us here, and reversing those. I mean, first of all, you have to want to reverse those things. I don't even think the Democrats want to even begin to reversing those things. I wouldn't be surprised
What?
if
That's a whole agenda, dude. That's a whole platform.
so Green New Deal, Medicare for all, and the foreign wars. I mean, dude, that's not the agenda.
It's all there to a degree, but I think now it got a shot in the arm,
All right,
particularly because of what happened and because of the fact that now they have minimal control of the Senate. And yes, it's still going to be divided, but I think that after what happened this week, the conservatives and the ruling class are going to be, you know what? We're right. We need to address these issues. We need to address, first of all, the pandemic, the economy, inequality, health, and so that we can keep it together for a little bit longer so we can continue to profit a little bit longer.
I really do hope that I'm wrong and that you're right in this instance. But based on what I'm seeing with some of the liberal democratic establishment still, pointing at Russia, that Putin did this, that this is what Putin
Hey,
wanted.
but they did try to attack our systems. Do we agree on that? That they did
Yeah, I mean, we attack their
perpetrate a
systems all we,
sizable.
we we attack their systems all the time too, with more success and with more resources compared to what they did. I
Yeah,
mean,
but so that's what I mean. So they were able to hack us, and
North
that's no
North
bueno.
Korea, China, every single country tries to hack each other, right? What I'm saying is to try to pretend like that's the reason why everything is happening is a stretch. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that they didn't. Every single country tries, and we
That's
successfully hack and eavesdrop on like everyone else too. So anyway, I think let's close this conversation on the impeachment. Again, it sounds like the Democrats, I don't really know if the Republicans have the stomach for it, if they're going to try to go through with this, but assuming that they all come together and they try to do it, what do you think are the chances of succeeding, of this succeeding?
Small, because I don't think um, the Senate is going to move on this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that even though there's been senators who have been against Trump and who are calling him to resign, I don't think there's the overwhelming majority of the Republican senators would do it.
Right.
And I could be wrong. I mean, we could be surprised, and McConnell may decide, you know what, this is something that we need to accelerate. I think they're more like, you know what, that was really scary, but let's not go overboard, or let's just give this time to cool down and just wait um, until a few days before Biden comes in, because I think, I mean, and this is where the interest, which Republican Party wing of the Republican Party will win, the party that wants to make sure that Donald Trump doesn't run, or somebody like Donald Trump doesn't run in 4 years, or they decide just to, let it be and let things play out as it will play out if he is not impeached or removed. I think, and I think obviously he's going to get impeached whether or not the Senate, um, whether the Senate agrees. That's what's at doubt here.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants him to run in 4 years. So if they don't impeach him to prevent that from happening, all that it means is that they think they have enough to keep him from successfully running in 4 years. So meaning that they've already determined that this incident is good enough that they'll be able to use it to prevent him.
Could
Otherwise,
be.
they
And I mean, when you think about some of the other legal troubles that he has, I mean, he had legal troubles with the state of New York
yeah.
around taxes and other things. Obviously, this could potentially add other things, whether it's people who are arrested and maybe in prison blaming him for
Mm-hmm.
instigating them and not being held accountable. So, the legal battles that he'll continue to have may keep him busy and may, for some, bring some accountability to someone who they perceive being responsible for a lot of hurt.
Yep. Okay. I think we can leave it at that. Thanks for listening to those that are listening, and also to our subscribers. Thanks a lot for subscribing. If you like our content, make sure to check us out. We are on YouTube, Brown Perspective. We're also on Instagram and Twitter. Nos vemos.
Ciao.